Hi, it's Warren Huart here. Hope you're doing marvellously well. I'm sitting here with the great Scott Devine. How are you, mate?
I'm all right, mate. I'm all right.
Oh,
Oh, wait, no, I'm all right, mate.
all right, mate. Yeah, bottle of beer, mate. Got it. Yeah, got
I
it.
went super English though. I don't actually speak like that, but yeah.
No, it's okay. I'll try and get back to
Should we ham it up?
my Carlisle. What was always the thing? Are we going? Us we gan. Us we gan.
Are we going?
Are we gan? You're doing the ust.
Are we going to Toon?
Are we going to Toon? Are you going to the town?
Yeah, we're going to the town. We're going out town. Going to the Toon. Yeah.
Gan. Oh yeah, gan.
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 Deeks.
And then brother was always Boyer. Me Boyer.
Me boyer. Buer. Deeks the Mott. I'm not going to say that.
I am-
We'll keep it clean.
We'll keep it clean. It doesn't
Let's
really
keep
matter because nobody watching this can understand a word we're saying.
Yeah.
Even when we're speaking with our English.
We used to
accents.
live in the same place, essentially. That's what we're talking about right now, which is a small town in northern England called Carlisle. Warren moved there when he was
16.
16, yeah.
Yeah.
And and I was born there. And the accent is. Do you have this in the States where you go 60 miles and the accent completely changes?
No.
No.
But they have tons of
Well,
accents.
obviously they've got loads of accents,
But they're like-
New York and Texas and.
But it makes more sense in America because you travel for like 7 hours and then you're in a different state and everybody speaks in a different accent.
But it doesn't happen over this short.
Oh
you
yeah,
know.
England's insane.
So in the UK, guys, if you haven't been, you literally drive 60 miles and even shorter than 60 miles. Yeah, 30 miles and your accent completely changes.
Yeah, which makes no sense because we live in the wonderful world of YouTube and the internet.
We're
where-
all going to be speaking the same language.
Well, you
yeah.
think,
Yeah.
but it seems to be getting broader.
Global language.
A global
In
language.
100 years' time, yeah.
Yes, we'll all be speaking semi-sign language and in pitch.
No, we'll just be like looking at each other and thinking. We won't even talk.
Wow, I'm
We'll
going
just
to get
send
into
it
that.
to each other.
You have the technology.
Yes.
So anyway, watch Scott's channel which is going to appear below here, and he's going to tell you the technology where you can
by
communicate
magic. Yes.
via telepathy.
Yes. I run a channel called Scott's Bass Lessons right now, but to be fair, I've been thinking about branching out, and Scott's telepathy lessons could be
It
the
could
next
be
on the card.
the
I've got a
next.
few ideas, but this is in the top 5.
Top 5, maybe even top 4. Telepathy
Yeah.
might catch on, might be a big deal. Telepathy.
Yeah. Music and telepathy. What do you think, guys?
Well,
Let us know in the
so
comments.
So Scott's bass lessons.
Scott's Bass Lessons.
Now,
yes.
Our mutual friend Sir Lawrence Blackadder,
Yes.
MBE, OBE.
It's something like that. Yeah,
Something
he's
like
a
that.
sir.
Yeah, he's definitely he's a knight of the realm.
Yeah, he's a knight of the realm. Yeah.
Was introduced
Is
us.
that how we met? Yeah. Through
It was
Lawrence?
actually through him. And if you've ever watched his channel, which I highly recommend if you are a bass player, or even just a musician in general,
Yes.
because the thing about learning, quite frankly, is like learning how to learn is really important.
Yeah. Like obviously, like I teach bass. The channel's called Scott's Bass Lessons, but one of the main things I talk about, not one of the main things, but one of the things that I focus on is that you have to. It's so easy to get out of learning,
Sure.
and it's hard. You've got to learn how to learn. You've got to be focused on it. You've got to look close at yourself and be honest with yourself. What are your positives? What's easy for you and what's hard, and
Sure.
and you've got to put a lot of practice into being a musician. So you've got to practice. I also call it practicing. You've got
Sure.
to. It's not picking up your guitar for 2 hours. Yeah, it's fun sometimes to pick a guitar for 2 hours, but sometimes it's not.
Right.
Sometimes it drags. And
Yep.
it's finding out how to do that and keep it fun for yourself if you really want to do this and take your playing to the next level. But yeah, that's my thing. I really love talking about the actual psychology behind learning and the whole the whole shebang really.
I can't remember who I was talking to the other day. Might have been Chris or Joe Barisi or something like that. I can't remember. Maybe we touched on it. Talking about Jacko was
Yeah.
being interviewed, and he said that he did most of his practicing in his brain. Just he visualized his practicing.
Yeah, I think it's something that when you get to a certain level, I think what Jacko had is he had great knowledge of harmony. We've talked about how important that is, obviously, and understanding the relationship between within a key. You've got sort of like 7 chords in a key, and understanding the relationship between them all. But then also understanding the relationship between all the intervals within
Sure.
a scale. The root, the third, the fifth, the
Right.
7. So when you can do that, if you've got a good understanding of that and a good ear, you can, boo-da-dee-da,
Right.
and you can sing your basic triads and things like that, which if you're not guys, you should really, even all like, if you're into studio stuff as well, you need to be, it's really beneficial to understand, harmony. And Jacko he used to think about, you can think about licks in your head and lines and things like that. So that's very much what he was talking about.
Right.
Sort of like thinking about sequences and what he's going to play over this chord and what he's going to play over that chord and how that will sound. You can imagine what it's going to sound like. It's a great way of developing your ear as well.
Wonderful. Yeah, no, I agree with that entirely. Even from like an engineering, production, mixing point of view, I always harp on about be musical. Yeah. Because these days, the technology is fantastic for your guys learning. We've talked about, bass players, get yourself like a little, I don't know, a Scarlett 2-input or a UAD, whatever you can afford, the most basic, entry-level thing. Even if it's 1 input, fine, just use a DI. But make it so that you're not just a bass player, you're a musician, and you're able to record yourself. Because if you can offer your services up to anybody across the world, just plug in and play a bass line.
Yeah, it's just completely, it's a no-brainer. Yeah. It's a no-brainer, And I don't know what your opinion is on it, but I really do think that engineers, it's engineers and producers, obviously producers, but it's really beneficial if you play some sort of instrument.
Absolutely.
Just because you're not seeing the full picture if you don't. You don't have to be a virtuoso or anything. Like, just sort of like basic skills.
Right.
Understanding song structure and things like that.
Right. No, I agree entirely. Like yesterday when we were recording, I came to do this classical guitar piece with Greg Saran.
Yeah. And
all the way through the song, it was a G, it was a D suspended fourth, and it was blah blah, and then right at the end of the song, the piano didn't suspend the fourth. No, sorry, other way around. The piano suspended the fourth through the whole chord and never resolved back to the F sharp. And we're playing along, we're doing it, and we're doing overdubs and stuff like that. And the piano's mixed super low while we're doing the scratch stuff,
Yeah.
And just being able to hear that is of paramount importance. If you're purely a technical person, and even as a musician, if you're all about your technique and you're not about your ear, if you're an engineer or a producer and you're all about like getting your DAW fast, I always say to people, learning your DAW and knowing it inside out, prerequisite. That's just to even start. It doesn't make you a producer or an engineer. It enables you to become a producer or an engineer.
Yeah, I want to be a musician. Do I need to know scales?
Yeah.
Yeah. People ask me about it all the time because obviously we're humans. We're in a noisy world and we like to take shortcuts. So it's completely natural to ask: is this a shortcut I can take? Right. Do I really need to know scale? Do I really need to know the scales that match the chords that are going by? So just if anybody's listening, you're wondering that. Yes, you do.
Right.
And I asked that question. I've asked it, way back when. I was like, do I need to know these modes that fit over the chords?
Yeah, there's no shortcuts, because even if the answer was yes, you've still got to build your dexterity up. You've still got to understand patterns and stuff. There's no way to bypass it.
Yeah, it's just sort of like, it's a prerequisite. It's sort of, if you don't know it, it's like missing words out of your language, I'm going to speak English, but I won't use the word and, there, or today, or it's missing words out of your vocabulary. So it is important that you do understand.
And definitely, music is a language.
Yeah, music is a language, and it's just fantastic as well because it's global. I can hook up with a guy in Japan. We don't have to say anything. All I need to do is write some chords down, and don't even need to write that 2-5-1. In the key of whatever, and we can jam.
So tell us a little bit about your bass playing career.
My bass playing career, I started actually as a guitar player.
Oh, frustrated guitarist.
It's out. So I was, I know, right. So I'll give you, it's obviously everybody's story is a long story, right? So I'm just going to whiz through. I started playing guitar when I was 13 because my best friend wanted to play guitar at school. And I went to a really crummy school, super bad. And to get a guitar teacher to teach the kids, they needed a number. It couldn't be just sort of like 1-to-1 or anything like that. They were like, look, guys, to get a tutor into college to teach guitar, we need at least 5 people, and they were a person short. So I was essentially pushed into it. My friend was like, come on, I really want to learn guitar. Oh, okay, so went to these guitar classes, and after a few weeks, everybody had dropped out except me, and I really enjoyed it. I was like, this is pretty cool. So, and I said to my parents, I'm really into this. Well, as a 13-year-old, it probably sounded more like this, Mom,
Yeah.
Mom, 13-year-old style,
Right.
So they ended up with getting me a guitar for, it was £20, so $35. I had that for a year. It was like playing a cheese grater.
Oh, yes.
In my first, this is like God's honest truth as well. In my first year of playing, when you play guitar or bass, you get calluses on the end of your fingers.
Oh, yes. Remember them well.
The calluses on the end of my fingers have never been as calloused from that first year. Like after that first year, my parents bought me another guitar. It kind of proved that I was going to do it.
Right.
I'd struggled away on the guitar for eons. And they've never been as calloused as that. So when people say sort of like, oh, my fingers are sore, I'm like, shut up and keep playing. They can no way be as sore as mine were. So anyway, so I got into guitar. My dad was super bright, and he was like, you know what, you need to learn to read,
Oh, wow.
he was just clued up. Not really. He was just sort of like, he was like, you need to learn to read. So I went to classical guitar lessons.
Right.
And did that, but I was really into rock and Van Halen and things like that. So I was like transcribing stuff. Did that.
She said to your classical guitar teacher, "Can you show me how to play Running with the Devil?"
Yeah. She looked at me pretty weirdly. Yeah. A bit of eruption,
Yeah.
And we'd just been hanging out in Sunset Sound.
I know, where they did those first two albums.
Wow, that is fantastic. I didn't. Oh, anyway, romantic. And then from then, I was super bad at school. So I left school. I kind of dropped out halfway through because I saw an apprenticeship job working for a handmade bass company.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Overwater Basses. Yeah. And
I remember Overwater.
Yeah, they're over in Gateshead actually.
They're still going?
Not Gateshead, Hexham. Yeah, they're still going. Yeah.
Oh, good for them.
They're still going. Yeah. And so I started working with this guy called Chris May, who was super inspirational, kind of entrepreneur. It was the first time I kind of got to hang out with, somebody that was thinking outside the box, really. I was like 16 and a half or something like that. So I worked for Overwater, and that's really my introduction into, Jaco Pastorius, Weather Report, Brand X.
Brand X
with, Percy Jones
Collins
on bass, Phil Collins on kit before we started doing Genesis and all that stuff. So really I was introduced to this whole other world of music that I was really into. And it just so happens that the stuff that Chris, the guy that ran Overwater, would put on was kind of bass-centric. He was making basses, so it made sense for him to listen to a lot of bass. And I was getting into this different style of music, and there was a lot of bass going on. And I just, so I just wanted to sort of like, I just picked up a bass and had a fiddle around. And one day we were watching a great fretless player I think he was from Edinburgh, came down. And I was standing there with Chris, and I just thought, oh, I wish I could do that. I wish I could do that. And Chris said, you could do that easy.
Right.
Just take one of the basses home. Just start practicing. You'll do that easy. So took it home, and the
rest is history.
And the rest is history, really. The reason that got into playing for professionally is I was actually working at Overwater, and to be fair, I was a bad luthier. It wasn't that I didn't have any skills.
Okay, so can you tell us what period you were working there? So don't buy the years.
yeah. Work it out for yourself. But yeah, so no, it wasn't that I was bad. My heart wasn't in it. I was, I really wanted to. Like, bear in mind that I came from a really small town, Carlisle.
Right.
There was one guitar teacher there, which is Ollie, and a couple of classical teachers that I studied with. And other than that, I didn't actually understand that there was a music industry. When I said to this was like super, the super truth, I said to my music teacher at school, I was like, I really want to be a musician. She said, you don't. There is, the chances of you being famous of like, 0.001%, you should do something else. And actually, when I wanted to do my GCSEs, which is, what's the version over here, GCSEs?
I don't remember. When I was a kid, it was O levels. They don't have it over here. They just get high school. They just get high school diploma.
Essentially, my teachers told my parents that I shouldn't take music at school. I wanted to take my music exam. They said he shouldn't take it. He's not musical. The truth, actually.
Wow.
Yeah. So anyway,
I think that's kind of a story with so many people.
Yeah, there were
music or arts. Anybody who becomes successful in it, they're always told by their teachers that they're not very good.
Yeah. So it was a bit of a bizarre one, really. But
I was thinking like Alan Wells. Remember he was asthmatic?
Yeah.
And he won the gold medal at the Olympics.
Yeah, man. That's really inspirational story.
Yeah.
That. They're making a film about it as well.
They are?
Yeah. Anyway, so I really didn't understand that there was a music industry that I could be involved in. I thought, being a musician meant, you don't make any money or you're famous.
Sure.
There's no in between.
Feast or famine.
Yeah, I didn't know anything about the session industry because there was no internet. There was nobody to tell me that there was a session industry. It's not something that you find out about. You don't think about it. There's a session industry.
Yeah, jingles.
You need to be told this information so you can consume it and then do what you will with it. So I just didn't know anything about it. And Chris, really, the guy from Overwater, really educated me on that. And he was like, because he lived in London, he was obviously making basses for a lot of the session guys, the West End guys, and I was like, wow. There's a scene that, these guys, they can play bass and guitar for money. Wow, they don't have to be famous. And I actually got offered a job. Somebody phoned Overwater and said, I'm in desperate need of a bass player. They had a health issue. Could I cover them? Well, it wasn't could I cover them. Do you know anybody that could cover them? And Chris said, well, actually, there's a young guy that works here that could probably do it. And that was the first pro gig that I did, and it was a show. It was like a theatre show, right? So I didn't read bass clef at all at this point. I only read treble clef, so it was just. I'm not going to get into the story. It's a long story, but it was like baptism by a fire. It was just
every night you're going back learning it all night.
It was insane. I had something like it was 6 nights a week, and it was rotated so that we had sort of like 60s and 70s nights where we were playing all the chic stuff and
nice
disco and
I used to do all the chic stuff.
Like I'd gone from sort of, just doing a bit of slap, and suddenly I was like faced with real bass lines, sheet music, the real deal. So 60s and 70s night, and then like Burt Bacharach and all that kind of stuff as well, really beautiful stuff. And then there was like a 90s night, which is all Wham, and Wham, and like they were great bass lines. Dion Estes on bass, fantastic. And then there was a West End night as well, West End and Broadway night. So we're doing all the West End and Broadway shows and stuff. It was a real great gig, and that week it was the first week that I worked for that show. It was life changing. I just thought, this is what I want to do.
Sure.
And then I was just like, this is it. So did that for I think it was for a month or so, and then went back to Overwater. Essentially told Chris, I was like, I'm gonna have to go. This is it. I need to be a full-time musician, and ended up getting the gig that I'd subbed for. The guy left because of health issues, and I got that gig. And I think I did it for like maybe a year or something like that. I'm always a bit sort of like blurry about the time. And it was really just, that's where I learned how to play bass to a certain extent, was just playing that show and reading. And then from there, I went on to, I actually enrolled, I actually did get a degree in the end, but I enrolled in music college or music school, right? I enrolled in music school 3 times in a row. But I kept on getting contracts every time so I'd enroll, and it became the running joke because I started playing with the tutors in the actual college by the 3rd year. I was playing, and I actually got a phone call from the head of jazz there, and he was like, Scott, you're on, right. Are you going to come? I was like, I'm not going to come. So anyway, I didn't ever go to that music school.
Oh, wow. Which one?
It was Leeds.
Oh, Leeds in England is the one everybody wants to go.
Yeah, it's a really great school. There's like Leeds Music, and there's like Guildhall and Royal Academy. Yeah. Birmingham's got a great one as well. And so I kept on trying to enrol, and kept on getting offered in contracts. So I was like doing cruise ships, and that again was a real.
I've done this.
That was my school, I went to, and that's why I did it. That's why I did it when I thought, well, should I go to music school or should I go and play 7 nights a week?
Should I go and learn to do the to get the gig that I'm already being offered?
Exactly. Well, I've met a few guys that were coming out of music school, and a lot of them were going on the cruise ships.
They're going on the same gigs.
Exactly. And I was lucky enough to get offered get my foot in the door in the cruise ship. So I just went and did that, and it was just absolutely ferocious in terms of learning. I was nowhere near good enough. It was just, and it was sink or swim. Literally, I was on a boat, but it was sink or swim.
If you don't know the song, we are going to throw you off the edge of the boat.
Yeah, it was like, and if you can't, on those gigs, I've had, I know plenty of people that have gone on and been sent off because they couldn't take care of business. So you had to be super, I had very good social skills to start with to keep me on that boat. I had to be a real cool guy because my skills weren't up to scratch. And it was, when I was on that, I did my longest one was 7 months, and it was 7 nights a week, 6 sets a night. And in that 7 months, I had 1 night off. in 7 months. So it was a lot.
Wow.
I don't even know how many hours that was. It was just like, a zillion hours. Playing all different, like jazz. It was my first real introduction to playing jazz, and that's when I started like learning harmony and all that. So I did that for a while, came back, did a ton of shows as well, theatre stuff, musical director for, artists such as Sony and EMI and over in Europe, and I've worked with some artists in Poland and just sort of like gigging about. My favourite gigs that I've ever done actually was with Georgie Fame. I played with Georgie Fame.
Georgie Fame.
Yeah, man, he's but he's just a fantastic vocalist.
Yeah.
Like real, and he's got real knowledge as well. And they're always my favourite gigs when I play with him. He plays for, what's the bass player for the Rolling Stones called?
Bill Wyman.
Yeah, Bill Wyman. So I was at Bill Wyman's birthday party. It was a bit of a surreal. He's really into. I can't remember what he's into. It's not Thomas the Tank Engine. That's Ringo, isn't it? He's really into Rupert the Bear. Right. This is true.
Right.
So I had this surreal conversation with Bill Wyman about. I think it's Rupert the Bear.
Yeah, Rupert the Bear.
Yeah. Anyway, so that's me. And then going on, I started this YouTube channel out of necessity. Really, at the time, I just thought there's no real lessons that. Giving people real great information. Everybody's just showing these licks, which are great. Licks are great.
Right.
They're fantastic, but if you don't know where they actually come from, they're bloody useless.
Right.
You need to actually know where they come from so you can get them and use them in some sort of context. In a session, so that
we were talking about when you and I were talking earlier about Ollie and the effect that he had on me. Teaching isn't just teaching, is also a big part of it, of course, is learning. But from our perspective, it's also mentoring. It's like not just going, here's some things to play, and that's great. Improve your technique, even improve your ear. But it's creating an environment where somebody keeps coming back to you because they know that you're kind of looking after them. You're going,
I did want to look after them. There was just sort of like so many, just crappy videos. There's good videos now, but there was just, it was a bit crappy at the time. Yeah, I just really wanted to give them the information that I thought was missing, and I'd been motivated enough to go and study with some of the best people in the world. I'd travelled to like Barcelona and New York, and
what did you do in New York? Apart from eat pizza.
I just studied with the best guys I could find. just to get the best information, and then just the YouTube channel came up and really the rest is history. I just got really into teaching on YouTube and got great feedback from everybody. Was like, wow, this stuff is cool.
Positive. You keep it so positive, and I don't feel competitive. I feel compelled to watch it. I'm like, I want to learn from this guy. He's not trying to show off his skills. You're an amazing bass player, but you're not. It's not like, well, yeah, you could do that, but let me show you how to do this. There's none of that. It's
exactly. Yeah.
It's like we were talking about, encouraging musicians to interact with each other.
Yeah, just it's just there's so many. Just going to what you said there is a lot of people that the unfortunate thing is, when they're teaching anything, they don't really think about the communication. Yeah. It's like it's like a mind fart. It's just like, this is what I'm doing, blur, and it's just, you really, I think, the reason why the channel's been really successful is one, consistency. I've really been consistent. But the other thing is I really think about the way that people sort of like absorb information, and I want to give them information that they can actually use. Sure. Not this weird, ambiguous stuff that it's like, oh, great, what am I going to do with that,
Also, this is a big deal for me, and the reason why I like to do this as well, and I don't want us to sound pompous, but just honest. It's like a lot of people have channels.
I'm not for pompous.
A lot of people have channels, and they are teaching, but that's it. They're sort of professional teachers. They might be somebody like, oh, I know how to do some Pro Tools. I'm going to teach Pro Tools on YouTube. It's like, I've been using Pro Tools since 95, 96. Yeah. It wasn't the first year, but like 2 or 3 years in. And I've worked in Logic and other things, and I've been recording and writing and all this kind of stuff. And now after doing this to a pretty high level for the last 20 plus years and been a musician before that. Now I feel in myself confident enough to try and help other people, and I want to try and fast track that, not in a negative way and skip out stuff. I mean, like really help people, because it was hard for me to get that information. And I see you and I'm like, well, this guy is actually a very talented musician, a great communicator, and I respect it, and I see wealth of knowledge and experience, as opposed to, I play bass, so I'm going to try and monetize a YouTube channel.
Yeah.
And I'm not trying to be negative, because there's a lot of good channels out there, but there's a lot of people that just see it as, you know, I feel like you do music because you love it.
Yeah. Well,
Nobody does music. If you're doing it to make money, don't do music.
Yeah.
Make money as a consequence out of the love that you have for this.
Yeah. One of the things I get asked a lot about is like, oh, how much money do you get off YouTube?
Right.
You know, how much, you know, I'm just like, is that the most important question?
Yeah, you told me you did 2 years before you made any money.
Yeah, that's the most important question that you can come up with. That, you know, that's what I think when people ask me, you know, not about, you know, how to build a channel and build a community that sort of like are all, you know, finding that common thread and really, you know, feeling great about what they're doing. But that's the only thing that people, you know, how much money do you make from YouTube? So if anybody's wondering, I make very little from YouTube.
We do this because we love it. You know, we both grew up musically in the same place. We were talking about this earlier, a place where there was so much talent that we didn't even realize.
Yeah.
You know, and like I was saying, I came to LA, and there's amazing musicians here. But then I look back at when I was 16, 17, 18, 19 years old, and I think to myself, there's guys I knew then that were as good as any of the players here.
Yeah,
if not better.
People sell themselves short.
Yeah.
You know, people sell themselves short. They get, well, I think it's two things, right? So they sell themselves short and they get crippled by self-doubt.
Right.
It's tough, you know. It's art, right? So we're involved in art, and I think it's very subjective. So you start getting paranoid about what you're doing. Is it good enough? And all these type of things, and they actually get paralysed by the worry that what they're doing isn't good as him or her or those people, you know.
Sure.
And they, you know, as you said, you know, you could be living anywhere in the world, and you think, oh wow, it's amazing in that place or this place, you know. And it's really, you know, now more than ever, the skill, the playing field is level, you know, wherever you are, you know, you can work around the world really, and wow, in fact, like in terms of learning, like I don't think there's ever been a better time to learn. It is crazy, you know, YouTube, like these online sort of like academies and things that are popping up. It's just, you've just got to dig in and try and push forward. There's a great pie chart. I saw it on Facebook the other day. It said, a day in the life of a musician. Okay, so it was like pie charts like this, right? And sort of like 4% was in red, okay, and it said practicing, right, and like 7% was like looking at others and wishing you could do the same, right, and then it was something like 82% crippling self-doubt. You know, and I think it is, you know, and I think sometimes it's unfortunate. I can say the same about some of my friends as well. They don't, they sell themselves short, you know. They should just really go for it and try and I think like this is maybe off topic, but try and create something. Try and create something of your own, you know. Don't be waiting for somebody to blooming knock on the door, you know. Nobody's going to knock on the door. It's like you're just build it and they'll come. So I'll practice and then somebody will come and find me. I'll be a great engineer and somebody will come and find me.
Right.
You know, just create something. And I've got something, it's like really personal to me, but I try and create something every day.
Sure.
I'll try and create some bit of content, or I'll write something. I'm trying to create something every day. If you're really if you're listening to me now and you're into sort of like wanting to get into the music industry and you're not in it yet, just try and create something. Try and think of yourself as a creative. You know, and obviously if you're a creative, you are creating something. You're creating songs. You know, whatever it is, but just be creative and just build stuff. You know,
right, absolutely.
You know, build stuff, and people will find it, especially now because of the internet, and they'll be like, "Wow, you know, who's this guy? Who's this girl? What they're doing?" You know, don't wait for the doorbell, you know, to ring, because it's just it's out of your control. I think that's the killer thing. It's out of your control.
Right.
You know, make your own future. Don't wait for somebody to make it for you.
I think that's wonderful advice.
You know, don't wait for somebody to make it for you.
Wonderful. Well, we'll wrap it up because you are in Los Angeles at the moment, running around like crazy, interviewing
Everybody.
everybody.
Yeah. What we're doing, I'm creating stuff, right?
Yeah.
Sorry, just to drill that down again.
No, it's wonderful advice.
I'm creating stuff, and I'm not waiting for people to knock on my door. I'm knocking on their door and doing it.
Yeah, and you're open to creativity as well. You're accepting of other people's creativity and you encourage it as well. And that is really very infectious.
Yeah.
It's very infectious. Thank you ever so much for coming. I appreciate it.
He's a total dude, by the way, guys. I've got to tell you, it's not all for show. It's actually quite marvellous, Warren.
Well, thank you. You're quite marvellous too. So please.
Thank you for having me, man.
Thank you. Scott's Bass Lessons, there will be a link below. As ever, please subscribe, go to Produce Like a Pro and sign up for the email list. You'll get a bunch of free stuff and check out
I like free stuff.
Free stuff's good.
Free stuff's good. Free stuff's good, guys.
Bye.
Bye.